So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about how to break free from the slave programming. And what do I mean by that? Even the idea of something called as a slave programming is so absurd that it's even beyond considering. What are you talking about slave programming? Slavery has been abolished long time ago. There are no slaves in today's world. And what are you talking about? And I would say, look around. Look at the hunched backs that the slaves had. Look at the obedient, fake smiles of people. Look at the blind following of instructions from people in positions of authority. Look at the mediocre and small goals that people put for themselves. That is what I mean by slave programming. Look at the guy who is willing to give all the money that he made in his lifetime to a girl, and she doesn't even respect him. And it's how you see yourself, or how they make you see yourself. So I'm going to be doing a deep dive on this subject. This is absolutely so important to free your mind, because mind is the control system, and you're going to be using your mind to produce money, wealth, and bring things into your life. So how the mind was conditioned in a child's life has to be examined, and more importantly, in your life personally. Each person has gone through a certain level of conditioning from institutions of authority, and they had not the best interest, and their whole role was to reduce you in size and reduce your potential. So what do I mean by all of this? For some of you, it might be a very bizarre idea, but stick with me. So when I was a little boy, I used to be playing with remote control cars. I used to be playing video games, and my imagination was very free and open. And I would imagine myself driving supercars. I would imagine myself being around beautiful women. And I would just do this role play where I would just imagine these beautiful scenarios. And I don't even know where it came from, but I would just think about beautiful things. And there was no problem with me feeling not deserving of this. I felt capable. I felt easy, that I can accomplish anything. I can do anything. And I had this sense of capability, self-worth, and this feeling that, yes, if I want to do something, I can do it. And I do deserve to go for these things and accomplish them. And I may have to work for it, but that's fine. And I had a lot of energy, and I would be playing in the playground, and I would be like, what do we create? Let's make some castles. Let's do something, right? And I would think about the best things in the world for myself. And I would expect that, and I was willing to work for it. And then what happens is that it was like a dream world, the dream scenario of what my life would look like in the future. And then you go to school. I went to school, and the first thing that they do is finger on your lips. Keep your mouth shut. Why is that? Any powerful leader in society, any powerful businessman that has accomplished anything has accomplished through their communication skills. That is where all of your power is. You defend yourself in communication. You structure deals in communication. You propose somebody in communication. You ask somebody out on a date in communication. You ask for a raise in communication. You negotiate in communication. Everything happens in communication. You lead people. You create unions of people, and you can bring large masses of people together using communication. Everything is done through communication. This is one of the most powerful and important aspects of a human being, the communication. And that's the first thing they shut down, because your power would be completely depleted if you just are silent. You can't use this power that you have. We had signposts everywhere in school like this. That was the number one rule. Keep quiet. And then listen, obey. And this is done from the very young age. And this has many negative effects as you grow old, because powerful positions need you to communicate, not just listen, but to communicate. God has given you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Keep your mouth shut. But all your power is in communication. Anybody who is worth anything has great communication skills. So they use this system, and if you make a noise, you will be punished. So not only they give you instructions, but they enforce it by inflicting pain. In my school, they used to beat children, and they used to punish them so that they're inflicted with this pain. And whenever you have pain and fear, you can condition people. The next instruction is stand in the line. You got to stand in the line and obey and keep your mouth shut. No smiling, no laughing. Kids are like, okay, and then they will laugh, and then one of them will get smacked. And then there is a hypnosis of fear in the entire classroom. And then you're like, oh my God, what is all of this? Suddenly you see that you become an introvert. You are keeping things inside of yourself. You are swallowing the injustice that's you being put through. And this is known as disciplining the child, and it's done for their benefit. And we're going to be teaching them things that are going to be very useful and very important, and we'll call it education. And then once the mouth is shut, then they start pumping you with data, all kinds of data. And instead of thinking freely about driving supercars, going to places, accomplishing things, doing things, creating things, and building things, you start to think about in terms of careers. Careers. What do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a pilot. I want to be this, that. And then there are categories in which you're enrolled in. And then before you know it, you're completely restricted. If you look at Elon Musk, what is he? Is he a rocket engineer? Is he a PayPal and he started PayPal? Is he a tech guy? He started electric car. Is he an electrician? I mean, what is he? I mean, you can't put this guy in a box, and he doesn't put himself in a box. He's just limitless. And he says, I like to build things. And I think Joe Rogan asked him, what are you? And he says, my Wikipedia page says I'm a business magnate, So he's making fun of these labels that are being put. And these labels tend to be very restrictive, because you start thinking, oh, I can't do that. I'm a doctor. Oh, I can't do that. I'm a lawyer. Oh, I want to be a lawyer, so I'm just going to ignore these other things. Or I'm going to be a doctor, I'm just going to ignore these other things. And everybody's supposed to take a career. You have to take it, and this whole narrative is pumped into your brain. The other thing they do is put you in the same uniform. Everybody looks the same. Everybody should have the same haircut. Everybody is just the same. And before you know it, this hypnosis starts to grow on you. And then you are told, if you don't perform well in school, you will not get good grades. If you don't get good grades, you will not get good college. If you don't get good college, you will not get a good job. If you don't get a good job, you're not going to have a good wife. You're not going to have a good car. You're not going to have anything. And if you don't listen to us, you're going to suffer the rest of your life. So you got to listen, obey, and do as we say. And everything is about getting a job. Everything that you're learning is about getting a job, getting a salary, paying your bills, saving money. And everybody has to have a job, and you have to get married, you have to have kids, and there is this framework that somebody else created, and it's imposed upon you. And what happened to that free vision that you had of driving supercars, being around beautiful women if you're a guy, or if you're a girl with a man, handsome man, accomplished man? What happened to those visions? Suddenly, you are thinking in terms of your grades. Oh, if I have low grades, I'm a bad student. If I'm a bad student, I'll get a bad job. I will not have a degree, and I will not have a good salary. Everything becomes about this salary. And I remember that they were telling me, you need to have a good wife is somebody who resembles your mother. So I'm starting to now look at women who look like this, and I have no attraction towards them. And so my point is, your entire vision got compromised, and there was this set framework of the society that was just imposed upon you when you were a child. And these patterns of behavior that respect your elders, keep quiet, raise your hand before you ask a question, and before you know it, you go into an office and you have absolute silence. Everybody's just working. Their dreams have gotten compromised. They have forgotten about their favorite cars. They have mediocre wives, mediocre partners, and everything is just mediocre. And anytime you think about a dream, a Ferrari, a goal, or anything, you are told, be reasonable. Be reasonable. Don't make these big goals that you cannot accomplish. Make small goals that you can accomplish. If having big goals is very greedy. To have big goals is very greedy, and you're being greedy, and just think small, be small, and only do what's necessary, what's required. And suddenly, all that vision, that possibility has now been replaced by this piece of crap. And before you know it, you've resigned, you're going to a bar, you're going to a club, you're already married with kids, and all of those dreams are not to be found, they're just buried. And this hypnosis is inflicted on large masses. So everybody around you thinks the same way, looks the same way, acts the same way, talks the same way, and it's just everybody is at the mediocre level, easily controlled, easily guided. If some older person says, come here, and then you just obeying instructions, you find yourself obeying instructions. Somebody says, shut up, you listen. And there are these weird things that you would not accept as a child, but they are now being enforced using the reward and punishment system. And that's how your speech is controlled, what you see is controlled, what you expect from life is shaped by the way you were conditioned. So there is a definition of what a good boy is. A good boy is somebody who combs his hair, wears the uniform, keeps his mouth shut, follows his instructions, follow the instructions of the adult, and doesn't use his mind and just does what is told. Basically a slave. And a bad boy is somebody who doesn't listen, somebody who has his own ideas, somebody who expresses these ideas. That's a rebellious and bad children, and he needs to be silenced and beaten and punished. So there is a framework of what is good, what is bad, and it's all made up. And it's enforced in the school system. You come back home, there is a good kid, right? To please your family, you get married. To please your family, you take a job. You compromise on your dreams to please them, because ultimately, there is a good kid even in the family. He went to college, he has this degree, and it's basically what will make them look good socially. So family is governing you, the school is governing you, and then the wife comes and she starts governing you, or vice versa. And before you know it, what happened to that vision? It's nowhere to be found. You have given up. You have let go of control, and you have succumbed and compromised that vision and submitted to authority and submitted to people around you. And that's the harsh reality of the slave mind. And even a thought of driving a Ferrari, owning a Ferrari, making a couple of $1 million is frowned upon, looked down upon. You're met with skepticism. And the people who accomplish these dreams are the people who decided not to compromise. who decided not to let others govern you. And I was thinking about, why are these celebrities worshipped so much? Like, why is it that we worship other human beings and these people gather around these celebrities? It's because they didn't give up. The famous guys, the popular guys, they didn't give up. They went through the risk, they went through the pain, they put themselves in harsh positions, they had struggles with paying expenses, but they just stayed true to that vision. They kept it alive and they accomplished it, and people come to see what they had given up on, that once they also wanted. It's something that they value, that this person has achieved, that they gave up on. And that's the real reason why we, look at these guys with a sense of halo effect, like a worshipfulness. Oh, that's a celebrity. Can you give me an autograph? It's because that person didn't give up. And if you want to really check how much of the slave mind has affected you, the first level of effect is in your thinking, obviously, but it's also in your communication. So if you take a camera out and you start speaking in it, what happens? How long can you speak in front of the camera? And you will see your entire speech has been tightly controlled. And that's where your power is. Your power is in the communication. You don't ask for money. You don't ask for enough money. You don't ask for a raise. You don't speak up. You don't speak up for yourself. You don't defend yourself. You don't say what you want. You've gotten resigned because the speech was controlled when you were really, really young. And as we grow up, and as I started to communicate, and I was like, wow, I haven't communicated in public. And suddenly I'm having to communicate and the whole voice is shut down and controlled. So that's just what I've been thinking about lately. I've been reflecting on this, and I wanted to share this video with you to really remind you of what you're capable of. And there was a vision that you had when you were a little boy, when you were not constricted, restricted, or oppressed. But somewhere along the line, that vision got displaced, and maybe you have even forgotten about it. So here is a little exercise that I want you to do. I want you to take out a piece of paper or pen or your notes on your phone and write down as if there are no limits to what you can accomplish. Imagine a genie comes in and says, everything that you ever wanted will happen. What would you write down? And just be completely limitless. Write down in the area of health, money, happiness, where you want to travel, what type of food you want to eat, what type of companies that you want to create, what type of women do you want to date, relationships. And in each category, write down all your goals, everything you ever wanted. All the toys you want to own, all the cars you want to own, just write everything down. And I did this when I was 17 years old. And almost everything has happened in my life that I wanted at that age. And my mother was making $1,500 a month, and I was dreaming about driving Ferraris. And I've driven Ferraris. I've dated some of the most beautiful women. I started my own company in Dubai, and I've dealt with billion-dollar CEOs. And none of this was something that I dreamt about. I was a bad student in school. I didn't perform well in grades. I had problem with the teachers because I would not conform. I dropped out of college, and I still accomplished these things. I've negotiated multi-million-dollar transactions. Met billion-dollar companies, several of them. And that's what I've done at the age of 29. And I thought about it at the age of 17. About accomplishing these things. And so I want you to write this down. I want you to remind yourself of that vision that you once had, that you freely thought about. And maybe the mind is no longer free. And if you don't want to do this exercise, just consider that this is the slave mind. There is a resignation, deep sense of resignation. Stop imagining things. Be practical. That's what they tell you. And stop jerking around and get to work, right? But it's important to write down what you want. And what is work, or what constitutes as work, has to be aligned with this vision that you have. This will be the North Star in your life, which will guide you into places. It has certainly guided me, and I really wish that it guides you too. I'll talk to you soon.